Well, welcome to the Prolife Team podcast. I'm Jacob, and I'm here with Karla. Karla, tell us about Flutter and what Flutter is, how it got started, and where you are today.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Flutter started actually when I was the director of a pregnancy center in Bozeman, Montana. And I met Barbara, who is from Africa. And she shared with me the need for ultrasounds. And we had one in the closet. And a lot of pregnancy centers have them in the closet. And if you have one in the closet, call me. We'll put it somewhere instead of leaving it in the closet. And we just started doing ultrasounds in the United States at that point, and then, the first we sent 2 to Kenya. They were the big refrigerator pregnancies, so big, huge ones, and, they were in refrigerator boxes. It took 2 years to get there, and, but they're there, and they're in a medical clinic, a pregnancy center that is in Kenya. So and we just actually sent another one a week ago, to Kenya again. We're over 262 ultrasounds in 10 years, and we are on our 10th year anniversary. And God has just been, there are so many stories. He just opens a door and opens a door, and it's just really crazy. The first ultrasound was actually through Gloria at Ambassador Speaker Bureau. She knew what I was doing and knew my heart, where my heart was. And she had a lady who called her and asked her for an ultrasound for the Dominican Republic. Their pregnancy center was across the street from an abortion clinic, and theirs had broke. And I said, okay, Gloria, let's just pray and see what happens. In 3 hours, and this is really odd because in 3 hours, I get a phone call from a pregnancy center in Florida who has a laptop pregnancy ultrasound that was almost brand new that they weren't going to use anymore. I wanted to know if I wanted it. And then So I call Gloria, who then calls her friend, who then tells them yes. And they say, now we need to figure out how to get it there. And the Dominican Republic had a pastor who was visiting Florida who went and picked up the ultrasound, and it was in the Dominican Republic at the pregnancy center within a week.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
And God just does that over and over and over. And we've placed over 250 all over the world, all over the United States, some in the United States. And I will get an email probably weekly now. Baby saved, twin saved, mom saved, twin saved. And it's just mind blowing what God does. So yeah, that's kind of Flutter in a
Wow.
nutshell, or in a cocoon, I should
So
say.
can you speak about, making ultrasound machines and ultrasound service accessible to a small rural clinic here in the US or, out of our country in a place that, needs that support. But let's start with the US and the rural clinic that's got a small budget and they currently think maybe it's just out of reach to get that ultrasound and training to go with it.
Right. So what kind of happened about 15 or 20 years ago, maybe even longer than that, when Focus started doing their grants? And we received actually one of the first grants from Focus on the Family at our pregnancy center. But they have stipulations, and I get that. I understand why they have to have, rules that you have to follow and things that you have to qualify for. I get that. But there's 700 pregnancy centers that have been sitting for probably 10 to 15 years in our country without medical. And one of the reasons I believe is because they were told by whoever that they weren't big enough, they didn't make enough money, they weren't open enough hours, and they didn't qualify. And I get that. I totally do. But on the other hand, what is one baby worth? We need to have an ultrasound in that rural area. Now, what has happened over the last 10 to 7 years is that's where most of the girls who are taking the abortion pill are dying. They're dying in the rural communities because they have no access to ultrasound. They don't know how far along they are. They take that pill, whether it's a fallopian pregnancy or whether they're 12 or 16 weeks and they think they're only 5, and they die in their bathroom. And by the time they finally are to a lot of them aren't saved. The baby dies, the mom dies, and we have to stop that. And pregnancy centers are about life. And so I believe that it's time in our country to step up and help those 700 pregnancy centers. So Flutter last May, actually May 4th, May the 4th be with you. Yes, I'm a Star Wars freak. But last May, I actually spoke at a pregnancy center banquet in Minnesota. And the reason was they were a little tiny rural community who wanted to go medical. And she had watched my videos on Bright Course training about how to take your center and go medical. And she knew that I needed to be the speaker. The crazy thing was the week that she called Gloria to ask in September that I could be their speaker in May, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. So Gloria had told her, Karla has health issues. No. Melinda called her almost monthly. Is she going to come? Can she come? Can she come? So finally at Christmas, so September to Christmas, Gloria says, I'm just going to tell her yes. We'll figure it out. So she tells her yes. Her and I start talking. And the cool thing was, I said, are you going to do a live ultrasound at your pregnancy center banquet? Because in the United States, fundraising, we know seeing that live ultrasound is huge. And she's like, well, we don't have an ultrasound. That's why you're coming to speak. And I said, well, I have, okay, at that point, 50 ultrasounds. Yes, I know that sounds silly, but I had 50 because I was ready to go to Heartbeat and bring them so the internationals could take them home. And they were at my house. We didn't give all 50 away. I asked the donor. He said it was fine if we gave it to a small rural pregnancy center, as long as they make under 225,000. They're not open 40 hours a work week, and they don't have full medical staff, but they have some. They qualify. And we brought them the ultrasound. We did a free ultrasound at their banquet. It was amazing. They raised more money than they ever have. And they had she said, what's the next thing I need? I said, you need a doctor who will carry the medical and read your scans. And if he has abortion pill reversal background, that would be amazing. And I said, start praying for that. Jacob, this is how bad God wants this. A week later, she called me. You're never going to believe this. I said, you found a doctor. She goes, how did you know that? And I said, because that's what happens. And she's like, yeah, and he's going to be at the banquet, and he's going to read all of our scans, and he knows how to do our abortion pill reversal. And it was crazy. And so he was at the banquet, and I met him and his nurses, and we did a live ultrasound, and they now went medical. And so do they have to have policies and procedures? You bet. Do they need to do that through Heartbeat, Focus, NIFLA, Bright Course training, whoever else? There's, make sure that you have your policies and procedures in line. Make sure you have some medical staff. And then we need to train that nurse. We have a couple of different options for that where it's affordable. Heartbeat will do it. Sparrow will do it. What's the other one? Forget Me Not Ultrasound will do it. There's so many that if you tell them you're a rural pregnancy center, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you want to go medical, they're going to work with you. And then the last thing you need is a website that is accessible so that the girls can find you when they're in crisis or when they've taken that abortion pill and find the pregnancy center that's closest to them and get the help that they need. So it's not rocket science. It doesn't cost $225,000. It's completely doable. And so we have 3 now that we've placed in rural communities in the United States. One is in an Indian reservation in Sholo. One is in an Indian reservation in New York. And one is in a little tiny rural town in Minnesota. And they're saving babies, and they're saving girls, and they're seeing abortion pill reversals. And so it's time for them to not, what's going to happen, Jacob, and it's already started. And I said 3 years ago it was going to start. They're going to start dying. The pregnancy centers are going to start dying if they don't have medical. And everybody's like, yeah. No, I'm serious. What's going to happen is that girl is going to take the abortion pill. She's going to walk into that clinic thinking she can get an ultrasound. They don't have that. And she's going to go back to Planned Parenthood. End of story. And we have to stop that.
Yeah. So I think if a podcast had a word of the day, it would be accessibility. That would be what we're talking about here, is making ultrasounds accessible.
I love that.
So for those who are listening who have the ultrasound in the closet, contact Karla to get it out of your closet and into operation. For those who don't have an ultrasound and a small budget, contact Karla and get connected with someone's closeted ultrasound machine. And for those who are in that transition, we did a podcast recently about baby Oliver and baby Olivia through live action, and use footage, as as a transitional piece until you get access to that ultrasound service, and then help women date their pregnancies to know how far along they are and provide true medical insight, um, in order to, well, help them know where they are and if they have, and what the status of their pregnancy is. And there's so many resources with people who are passionate about that training and education. And so there's, yeah. But yeah, so Carl, I'm excited. This is really, really good. And a lot of people feel like um, it's just out of reach, but it's really not. It may just be a matter of having that network and connection with someone who can help with an accessible set of services and equipment.
Right, 100%. And, I had a phone call, and this is it's a God thing, total God thing. God incidents is what I call them. Yesterday, I get a phone call from Kirk Walden, who was in a pregnancy center in Auburn, Alabama, and she called me and we had a conversation, and she says, "We have an ultrasound we'd like to get rid of. It's in the closet." And I gave her 2 options. I said, "Well, we can figure out how to send it to a developing country." And a lot of times the bigger ones, it just takes a long time, money, they have to be created. It's doable, and they can do it if they want. They'll have to help that international, because usually it's about $2,000, and we don't have that. And so they can ship them. And so that's a doable thing. And then we also have pregnancy centers in the United States that are rural. And so I said, "Do you have a couple rural pregnancy centers?" She's actually praying over that this weekend, that if they have a couple rural that aren't medical. And she's like, "How do we come alongside them, partner with them, give them the ultrasound?" Now they have a network or a resource. A lot of states are starting coalitions. There's one in Michigan, there's one in Mississippi, there's one in Texas, there's one in Montana, but we're 13 pregnancy centers in big state. But they're there. Find a coalition, connect to that, and go medical, because if we don't go medical, we're going to die. And
Yeah.
that's yeah. So she's going to actually call me on Monday and decide whether the board wants to send it to a developing country or whether they're going to partner with the local pregnancy center and give me a call back, and then we're going to network how to get them trained and how to get them an ultrasound machine. So yeah, God's good.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So for those who are listening, if someone feels inspired to either give an ultrasound machine or to reach out to Go Medical, yeah, please reach out to me, and I'd like to do a follow up episode with you and Carla, and
That'd be awesome.
we'll explore how that went and let people listen in on the adventure and the journey that you're going on. Um, so Carla, on your website, there's a Bible verse on there, and I was hoping you could speak to it. It says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50:20. So, yeah, how does that verse inspire or connect with Flutter?
So when God gave me that verse, I didn't understand it because I had just been widowed with 4 kids. And I'm like, "My husband died. You're giving me the scripture about people alive. I don't get it. How does that even work?" And within 6 months, and this is how God works, and I'm dyslexic and I have a really hard time memorizing. I can quote scripture, but I can't tell you where they came from. And for that some reason, I just Genesis 50:20 just has never left me. I was giving it to it. So he passed away. And I actually wrote a book about that. It's on Amazon, called Waiting, A Story of God Timing. If you want to read it, it's on Amazon. It's also on my website if you want to read the story. He was missing for 5 weeks. It was pretty crazy. But God gave me that scripture. And 6 months later, I was the director of a pregnancy center saving babies from abortion. So what Satan intended to harm me, God intended it for good, for what is now being done, the saving of many lives. And so that's just kind of followed me all the way through. And Flutter is also saving many lives. And so it's just kind of my verse. So Yeah.
Awesome. So, what's the smallest ultrasound unit you have helped find a new home for?
You want to see it?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
hold on.
Well, I'll have to describe it for those who are,
I
listening
love that.
'cause yeah, there's a video version of this, but there's also many people may just listen to the podcast.
So, for the pregnancy centers that want to go medical and just want a little ultrasound, they're called a V scan. There's also one that Mindray makes now. I don't remember what it's called. Um, and this is the whole entire ultrasound machine.
My goodness. It's like the size of a
Cell phone.
phone or
Yeah.
cell
And it
phone.
talks to
Yeah.
an iPad. And I'm going to share this because this is something that God gave me a while ago. And I think other people are starting to steal it. Kirk Walden did the other day. They're starting to steal it. But so it talks to the iPad. Okay. When you're in a pregnancy center, sorry, I'm not at a desk, so I'm just having to throw things everywhere. Here's the ultrasound. You're at a pregnancy center. She won't look at the TV, right? She won't even look at the ultrasound screen. But if you say, hey, can you hold this? She's holding it. Nurse is doing the ultrasound. She's holding her baby.
Aw.
She bonds. She doesn't abort because she's holding her baby.
Yeah.
That's that I
Yeah.
should have. What's that called? I own that. I made that up. But now people are using
Yeah.
it all over the place. It's all good. It's all about God. But yeah, so this is the
Yeah.
ultrasound.
It's good that
So
you're good it's good, well, it's a compliment when if Kirk Walden
there
and
you go.
others are
There you
taking
go.
that language, that's a good compliment of, where it came from.
Exactly.
Um,
So yeah,
and
so they're holding it.
what about
And
the
so
boyfriend? If
that's
the boyfriend there in that room, he could hold it, and
yeah,
then,
because
boy, that would just be so impactful.
they're so used to holding technology that when you put an iPad in their hand, they just automatically hold it. They don't have to look up, which takes effort to look at the screen or right. But when you just hand them an
Yeah.
iPad, here, can you hold this? Look, there's your baby. Done. Anyway, so yeah, so this is an iPad. That's why this is why we send them to developing countries. We carried 40 of these in our carry-ons because they both have lithium batteries in them and they can't go onto the
Oh.
plane. So they have to be a box of eggs in your carry-on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the pregnancy centers here, uh, we have I know there's 3 pregnancy centers in the United States that are using that ultrasound. So hopefully we're starting to get some feedback on how well that's working. I know in developing countries, they love it because it Bluetooths, it doesn't need internet. The batteries charge at their house, so they don't have to leave it at their pregnancy center because a lot of ultrasounds will disappear.
Okay.
And they just put it in their
Mm.
purse and take it with them. So it works both ways. I
Wow.
think the
So
pregnancy centers here, if they can just get used to just handing her that iPad, it's going to save way more babies. And I think the bigger pregnancy center, I've been saying this for a long time, and I think people are finally getting it. And I'm not faulting anybody who did this, but you don't need a $60,000 machine to do 3 things. Where is the baby? How far along is it alive? Those are the only things they're allowed to do. We do not need a $60,000 ultrasound machine to do 3 things. And the prices have come down. I think some of them are about 25 now they're just as good. But we can buy one of those for $3,500.
yeah. Well, the idea of recycling or, using used ultrasound machines, is such an attractive idea to
I love them both.
keep it on
Yeah.
mission. Yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever God's going to do. I love it both. Some of them, some of the rural pregnancy centers. One of them's on an Indian reservation, so I don't even know if they have a center. So she goes to the girls. So having a handheld iPad is going to be way more accessible. We also have anti-trafficking um, anti-trafficking pregnancy centers that are in bigger cities. And they'll use the handholds because some of them are actually invited into like the raids where they'll go and get the traffic girls out of a saloon or a bar or a hotel, whatever they're in. And They make sure they're all not they don't have to take a blood test, they don't have to have a urine test, they just make sure they're all not pregnant, um, with that ultrasound. So, yeah, it's just it's a God thing, it's so cool.
Awesome. So, wow, it's just an exciting story. I'm hoping that people will provide feedback, and so maybe we could do a follow-up episode based on questions or thoughts and ideas. And so, and it seems like this is an example of using innovation based on resources that are available but yet not currently being used. Um, what are your thoughts about just being creative and innovative with what we already have? With just using the machine in the closet. Can you just how does that inspire you, or how can we look for new ways to be innovative and creative like that?
Well, I think that there's 700 if there's 700 pregnancy centers in the United States that aren't medical, and let's say we're gonna have to be really innovative because my heart would be within a year or 2, they're all medical, because that's where these girls are dying from taking the abortion pill. And so getting one out of the closet, we also one of the things that we need to change, and okay, so I'm going to say this in love, boards. We need to say this in love. Handing out diapers is great, and that is a resource they need. But seeing the baby in the womb is the key to saving that baby in that girl's life. Which one is more important? I believe the resources are important, but I believe that saving that baby and seeing that baby. So we need the boards to be flexible enough to see that going medical is doable. It doesn't have to cost a huge amount of money, and it's not as scary as it used to be. I mean, I remember we were scared in the beginning and 20 years ago, and you know why we were scared? And I've said this before, and I know people have stole this, but I'm pretty sure I'm the first one that said it. Planned Parenthood took the word abortion away from the pregnancy center. We were afraid to use the word for 15 years, right? Were we not? We were afraid to use the word abortion in the pregnancy centers because we were afraid Planned Parenthood was going to come and hurt us. We knew God was bigger, but we didn't use the word abortion. We do now, thanks to live action and Kristen Hawkins and just all of, everything that we're doing, thanks to Heartbeat and CareNet, all of the things and being in the news more, right? But they took that word away. And because of that, everybody got scared. And so God is not a God of fear. God is a God of innovation and creativity. And what is it going to take for that pregnancy center to go medical? Do you need to raise another $50,000? Great, let's do it. Do you need an ultrasound? Great. Do you need a nurse? Pray for it. God is opening up doors like crazy. Every time I talk to a pregnancy center here in the United States that's ready to go medical, God just goes open, 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 open. And because it's been closed, the board, and sometimes it's the board wants to go and the director doesn't. So, I mean, we're talking to the whole scheme of directors and boards. It's time to go medical. What is it going to take? Because the girls are dying in your community. Babies are dying in your community. Girls are dying in your community because there's no ultrasound. End of story. So we have to be creative. We have to just trust God that this is what he wants us to do and do it. When I started Flutter, I told a bunch of, head people in the industry that I was going to start sending ultrasounds to developing countries. And they told me, you can't do that. We tried. It doesn't work. God told me all of them. I don't know what that meant. I don't know if that means all the ones in the closet, if it means until I'm 85. I don't know. But he said all the ultrasound machines, all of them. And I believe that. And so we have to just trust that he has a plan. And the people
Yeah.
who told me I couldn't do it, now that we're 262 ultrasounds in, realize that God said all. And that's where we're going. So,
Yeah, I can imagine a state coalition knowing every pregnancy center and pregnancy clinic in their area, and knowing who needs to go medical or who needs an ultrasound machine and wants to go medical, and also knowing who has ultrasound machines and maybe updating them or replacing them with newer, different equipment. And so, yeah, that state coalition leader, yeah, could really connect with your group to help facilitate in that, with that networking of local clinics helping local clinics, reducing on shipping and also increasing local support between clinics and centers.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yep,
What are some of the
I agree.
reasons why a pregnancy clinic would update their ultrasound equipment?
You know, so I do agree that technology moves faster than we could ever imagine. When I saw iRobot, I said, "No way," and now, you know, and now we have AI and we have robots, and so, yeah, and so we know that that was a thing. But I think that uh, we have amazing ministries also. So Heartbeat, Focus, Focus on the Family, Heartbeat International, and Knights of Columbus are really, really good and amazing at making sure the ultrasounds that are in the buildings that are saving babies, especially like if they're doing, 100 a week, that ultrasounds, number one, they need two, right? Because you can't do 100 a week with one. So a lot of centers, they'll grow and they'll have to have two because they just can't keep up. And I know some of the pregnancy centers in Dallas have more than two, and they're busy. And so I just think it has to do with the need and whether or not how old the machine is. What we don't take a Flutter won't put an ultrasound machine somewhere that if it's over 10 years old. Why?
Okay.
Because the technology is just not as accurate. So if I can get one that's 3 years old versus one that's 10 years old, I'm going to go for the 3 year old machine. Uh, and so Knights of Columbus is really good at making sure those machines that they have placed don't get out of date. But when they're out of date and they're 5 years old and they're in a big, huge medical clinic that's using it a lot versus putting it in a closet when they get the new one and giving it to a pregnancy center who's maybe going to do 30 or 40 a year. Is that okay if they save one baby? Yes. Now, the other trick to that is those nurses need to stay up on their training. That's also one of the semi negatives that we've run into is we put the ultrasound in a rural country or a rural country in a rural area in Montana,
Area.
let's say, and they're only doing 30 or 40 a year. They have to keep up on their skills. There are 2 or 3 different ultrasound companies in the United States, and we can get you their names, that have free, I don't know if it's once a week, once a month training where you can go through, hey, if you found this is what an ectopic pregnancy looks like. Let's research, let's watch this, let's do this class. So they're doing classes with these women. So those are going to become way more important as we move forward because those rural centers aren't going to be doing, 200. They're going to be doing, or they're not going to be doing 5 a week. They're going to be doing 2 a week or 3 a week, which is still worth saving that baby. A lot of them are only going to do ultrasounds on Wednesday or on Monday or whatever works for their community. Some of them are probably going to do ultrasounds on Saturday because that's when the girls don't have school. And so I think we just need to be creative. We don't have to be open 40 hours a week, and we don't have to have full medical staff to have an ultrasound machine. We have to follow the laws and follow the rules and follow our policy and make sure our policy's right. But we don't have to have 5 medical degrees and $225,000 to do it.
Yeah, so speaking of clinics in a rural area where where someone really wants to get more volume of activity or scans, what options might there be for her to get more scans, more activity, more practice, more volume of scans in order to hone in and keep her skills sharp?
So in the United States, that's funny you should ask that question, Jacob. In the United States, some pregnancy centers only do 2 ultrasounds for that girl. Now, granted, we're only allowed to say how far along is it, where is it at, and is it alive? If we're only allowed to say those things, and we're not allowed to tell them what they're having, We're not, but we can find anomalies. So if there's something wrong, that's why we have a doctor, right? That's going to do that. So in that space, okay, Jacob, I was going somewhere. What was the question again? I'm so
So the
sorry.
question was, yeah, how can someone get more
Yes.
volume or
Thank you.
traffic? Like in my
Okay.
mind, I was imagining in a rural clinic, she might need to go to the neighboring busier clinic in order to volunteer there too to get more
And
client
that's a huge
in.
idea. That's beautiful. I love that. We had 2 clinics for a while and we shared nurses. They went back and forth, right? So have a nurse manager that's paid, and you have 4 nurses that are volunteers, and they work 1 day a week, and they go back and forth. 100%. The other way is in the United States. That's where I was headed. In the United States, we say that we're only going to do 2, maybe 3 ultrasounds. There is absolutely, and I'm not medical, and maybe we need to ask. We need to ask Connie if it's allowed to say this or not. But I'm pretty sure you could do an ultrasound a week, and it's not going to hurt anything. In Uganda, the girls that are at Remnant Generation, and they have some of our ultrasound machines, and they actually bring girls out of trafficking. And Annabelle and I are close friends, and they have some ultrasounds, and they do an ultrasound on these girls a week. The reason is number one, to keep up on their skills. Number two, and the main thing is most of these girls have had huge trauma to their bodies, and we're just not we're not sure how well she's going to carry. And so they keep really close tabs on how well that baby's doing. And the only way to do that is ultrasound. So those girls actually come in weekly and get an ultrasound. There's no proof that you can't do that. Now, I'm not saying she's going to come in weekly, but you could do her monthly. And maybe for up till she's, once she gets, maybe do a monthly until she gets her OBG. I mean, we want her to get an OBGYN, and we want her to get her doctor or a how is she, and we want to plug her in and make sure that we have those resources for her. But there's nothing that says we can't do more than 1 ultrasound either. And so, but I do love the whole training thing. So they can train, they can go to a neighboring town and get more ultrasounds 1 day a week, which is beautiful. I mean, it's probably not. I'd have to ask Alabama how far those centers are, but I don't think they're very far. I mean, our neighboring town's 45 minutes, and that's where we had our other pregnancy center. And I drove that in dumping snow multiple times because that's where our other pregnancy center was. And so doing a drive for 45 minutes 1 day a week to catch up on ultrasounds, I love that. So I think there's multiple ways that they can make sure, go volunteer at the hospital. Uh, yeah, I think that there's definitely multiple ways to do that. But I love, we definitely need to make sure that we're brainstorming, we're connecting, we're networking. Maybe we start, I was kind of joking the other day. I was like, what we need is a heartbeat for the rural community. They don't have the income to go to Heartbeat every year. Sometimes they
Yeah,
know it exists, but they don't get to go because it costs
yeah.
realistically $3,000 to $4,000 by the time you buy your
Travel,
ticket and your
hotel.
travel and your
Yeah,
hotel and your plane and your food. It's about $4,000. And so the pregnancy centers, if their budget's not 225,000, they don't have that. And so is there a way to make a, cheaper heartbeat basically for the rural communities that maybe is all online, that maybe they could come to Heartbeat. I know in Heartbeat does allow, which is huge, and CareNet, both of them have, you can go to Heartbeat in your office on your computer. And so we have that option now. I think more training, and the more training's never bad. And so I think that is a, great thing too. Yeah. Yeah. So, and Gloria, and I don't know,
yeah.
so
Well, so
Gloria,
speaking about oh, go ahead.
Gloria is about to do an article on me. I'm just waiting for my new headshots because I don't know if anybody knows me from before, but I don't look anything like I used to, at all. Maybe I'll still have the same loud voice. Everyone knows the voice more than the face. But because I've heard people go, I heard you, but I didn't know it was you. Yeah. So, but anyway, she's going to do something. And so Jacob, maybe we could even connect this podcast because one of the things we're going to be talking about with ambassadors is reaching those smaller pregnancy centers that are rural And so if we could connect the 2 and connect that to my page at Ambassador, and then we could send it out that way too. I don't know how that all works. I'm not a techie person, but,
Well, I'll send
there
you a
might be a
link
way to
to
do
the podcast, and you're
that.
welcome
Okay,
to send it to Gloria or whoever you
perfect.
use it however you would like. And you're not
Okay, that'd be
required to
great.
promote it, but you're welcome to.
Yeah, no, that'd
Um,
be awesome.
so we did a webinar Wednesday a few days ago or last week with Sherry Richard with Unborn, and she's starting up an online training program called Shine for ultrasound training. And
Awesome.
one of the things that she also said during that webinar Wednesday was, I believe it was the amniotic sac that would grow by 1 millimeter, I believe it was, per day. And so one of the things that she said was, if you scan early and you don't see this sac or this circle, if you scan again in 3 days, it'll be 2 or 3 millimeters larger, and it'll make it easier to see. And so there's a real purpose in scanning a few days later if you don't see something that you were expecting to see, because then you can also confirm that growth and so on.
Yep,
And so there's a
yep,
real, and she gave a medical reason for doing that additional scan a few days later based on the growth, making something easier to see based on what's expected. And she went over like
yep,
placement and a lot of
right.
really good insight. And then on another point you mentioned of the virtual conference. So yeah, CareNet, Heartbeat have their virtual trainings. And I believe Heartbeat has some virtual trainings throughout the year. um, but then there's also the state conferences are amazing for that
Yep,
in-person local experience, which is cheaper on
yep,
travel at least, and usually cheaper on the hotel side because it's a smaller area. And then Heritage House with Brandon Monahan, they're starting a new virtual training,
oh, I
and
didn't know that, that's awesome.
it's actually focused on the rural communities because those are the ones who have the hardest time making it to the national training event.
I gotta stop talking to people, Jacob.
Well,
The one that
I
told
think some
Brandon
of these
that.
ideas, I mean, sometimes God,
Told
works
Brandon
through a
that.
variety of people.
Actually, I didn't tell
Yeah,
Brandon, I told Dinah. Because Dinah Monahan's the one that has the ultrasound for the pregnancy center on the Shola reservation,
yeah,
a handheld. And so that's a Flutter God thing. So yeah. So it's
yeah.
actually not Brandon, it's Dinah. Dinah's yeah, but it's all good.
But and that in the website, they've got their website up. It's centerstogether.com, and Dinah's one
Nice.
of the speakers,
Yeah.
along with several other people.
That was my idea. Thanks,
But
Dinah.
one of the goals is accessibility. It's making it
100%.
accessible to people who, because the travel, there's a real expense to the time, travel,
Yep.
and
Yep. And
food, like
we
you
want them to
said.
feel important. We want them to feel heard. We want them to feel
Yeah,
like they're heard and they're
and
important. Just like the girls are heard and they're important, these rural pregnancy centers need to be heard and are important.
and I personally prefer the in-person experience because there's a real value with looking at someone face to face instead of Zoom,
Right.
and there's
And
a
maybe
real
we
value to
raise
spending time eating, and
right.
yeah,
Maybe
that's
we
really
help them
valuable.
raise money for that, you know?
Yeah, and so I don't wanna minimize, the
100%.
premium
I
experience,
agree.
which is
But
in
a lot of them
person,
just
but
can't afford it.
there's more accessible options that, make it so you can still get trained even though it may not be as it won't be as personable or in real life. It's virtual
Yep.
and remote.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. Yep.
Well, this
Yep.
has
For
been
sure.
really good. So Karla, out of curiosity, and this is just my brainstorming brain looking for new topics to talk about, but have you ever helped a pregnancy clinic recycle anything beyond the ultrasound machine? Like, is there any other equipment that would fall into that? Oh, we could help someone else use that. Is there anything
I
else?
don't know. I don't know. I know that I mean the STI equipment is pretty affordable. And a lot of the pregnancy centers are partnered with, even though we don't love partnering with the city or the state, they're partnering with them because they'll run
Okay.
most of the tests for free because the city also or the state doesn't want someone with herpes running around town. And so there's a lot of networking that can happen in the STI space. And then,
What
and
about tablets
maybe
or iPads? if a pregnancy clinic
Oh, no,
has iPads that they're
they're so
replacing,
cheap now. They're like 250
yeah,
bucks, 200 bucks. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I totally do. Um,
just
I think
brainstorming.
I think what they need to share though, Brandon, I just thinking about Brandon. Jacob, I
No
think
worries.
that they need my head. I think more than equipment, more than all of those physical resources. I believe that they need emotional prayer resources. One of the things that I hear from rural pregnancy centers a lot is we feel like we're all alone.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
So
well,
maybe
you're
if,
not.
a
But
healthy clinic, a clinic that's got the healthy budget, the healthy team, maybe they could adopt someone that's in that growth stage or in that
yeah,
earlier stage
100%.
of, trying to get to a certain level.
Yeah, me and Jarrell have had that from Heartbeat. We've had that conversation multiple times about pregnancy centers. Some pregnancy centers in the United States have adopted a pregnancy center, but it's in Ghana or South Africa, or which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, that's amazing. But what if we adopt one that's in the next town?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so I think that's a, I think
Um,
I think, and I love the. I know that Connie, no, what is her name? Carolyn
Connie
from Michigan.
with Life Matters,
Choose Life,
yes.
yeah, Life Matters Worldwide, Life Matters whatever, Life Matters Worldwide. Their goal was to start the coalition in Michigan, and now they're helping other states start coalitions for that reason. Mississippi's had one for a really long time. I went and spoke there. Like Florida has a one. So it would be interesting to kind of find out, like you said, it would be really interesting to find out where are the coalitions. So if you're part of one, let us know. How many do you have your whole state? Or are there pregnancy centers that aren't part of the coalition? And is the reason they're not part of the coalition because they're not medical and they don't feel important enough? And is there a way to help come alongside them instead of letting them fall through the cracks?
Yeah, and then so I've been going to the Alliance for Life in Missouri, state conference for probably 15 years or something like that. And for a while, there were groups from the neighboring states. Like I can remember Kansas, a few clinics would come from Kansas to the Alliance for Life Missouri conference. And then they stopped going to the Missouri conference when Kansas started their own state
Amen.
coalition
Yep.
and had their own group
Yep.
and annual event. And so I would just like to encourage people to, if you don't have a state coalition, go to your neighboring state and go to their coalition. And then someday when you have your own, you can switch to just
Yeah.
going to your own state's
Yeah.
coalition. But if
Montana
you don't
has
have
13
one,
pregnant. Yeah.
but
Montana
your
has
neighboring
13
state
pregnancy
might have
centers,
one
and
if you don't have a
yep,
coalition.
100%.
Yeah.
Go to Idaho or Utah or yeah, yeah, for sure. Because you're not going to feel alone. And so I think one of the things we need to be innovative, but we also need to help them know that they're not alone and that they're important.
Yeah. Well, that's really good, Carla. I think this is a good episode. Any
All right,
final
I'm
thoughts to
excited.
wrap things up?
Any final thoughts? I have lots of
Open-ended
thoughts,
question.
Jacob. I mean, I think we've covered it multiple times. If you know of a pregnancy center that's rural, that's struggling, if you know of an ultrasound that's in the closet, if you need, I'm not the only speaker that can speak on helping you go medical, but I would love to help you. My heart is there. And so, because when I was, when I started at my pregnancy center, we're a rural community. We were seeing 20 girls a year and our budget was 20,000. And now they're on campus, $500,000 budget, seeing 500 girls a year. And so it's worth saving because the numbers are there. When I went to Minnesota, this is maybe something to leave everyone with. When I went to Minnesota, she got a hold of now I don't remember the people who in the United Jacob that do the statistics for a for a Christian ultrasound pregnancy center. How come I can't think of the
The
name
Lowe's
now with
Institute?
my they do the
Doc
statistics for everybody?
Lozier Institute, maybe? Or is
Yeah,
that a
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah. So through the Mosier Institute, she realized that because they didn't have an ultrasound machine, they were missing 8 to 4 girls a month.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we did at her banquet was, let's save those other 4 because they weren't coming to them. Why are they're not coming to them? Because they don't have an ultrasound. And so if you're missing girls and you're in a rural community and your heart is that you don't miss any of them, then it's time to go medical.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
And you can find
And
those statistics for your area. So, yeah.
yeah, and I just want to encourage, if you're in a rural clinic, partnering with a busy clinic can help provide maybe some volunteer time to get more scanning in. And that
Yes,
busier
for sure.
clinic may need some relief. Because they often, some clinics are just very busy because they're in a highly populated urban area, and they could use that relief from with an additional nurse who's looking to get more
I
traffic,
think
or
that's a great idea.
also just connecting with APLOG about, ways to navigate some of these questions and problems. APLOG has such an amazing team of medical professionals, and
Yep,
they deal with
I
questions
agree.
like this I would expect all the time.
Yep, for sure. That's a
Awesome.
great idea.
Well, Karla,
So, yep,
thank you so much for being on here. Would you close out our podcast with a prayer, and I'll pray along with you.
I would love to. Dear Heavenly Father, oh my goodness, just in awe every time you move a mountain, every time you save a baby, every time we see the flutter of a heartbeat. And Lord, um, we know that there are rural communities out there, rural pregnancy centers out there, Lord, that are right now contemplating, do we go medical? What does that look like? How do we do it? Can we do it? Are we important enough? And I just want you to let them know, yes. Lord, I just lift them all up to you. I lift up the medical. I lift up the staff. I lift up all of the girls that are in those rural communities, Lord, that need you. And Lord, there's so many things going on in our country right now that are legal and all of the things that you know exactly. Abortion is coming to the forefront, and pregnancy centers are being a light in the darkness. So Lord, I'm so thankful for that. Thankful for Jacob. Thankful for iRapture and all that they do, and the podcasts and the webinars and the websites, and just Lord, his heart is just to save more babies. And so Lord, I just ask that you be with his team as they move forward, and just Lord, be with this day, and Lord, help us to know how to glorify you in all that we say and all that we do. In Jesus' name,
Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you, Karla.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you so much. And let me know if you need anything else. And then, once you have the link, I'll send it to Gloria while you get my.
When I look into the heavens, golden skies declare your glory, and I see a whisper, swirling clouds above me, revealing your silhouette. You have set the stars forever, announcing your mighty splendor. You command all nature, breathing words of life will never pass away. We praise you, Lord. All of the saints praise you, Lord. Your name alone, praise you, Lord. Sing your people young and old. Stormy winds and mountains and foothills, lightning and snow, from the heights above and the depths below, we praise you, Lord. breezed upon the ocean. Moonlight danced in your devotion. For you have raised a people bathed in holy love, fiery from your soul.